Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Tuesday morning trading room. So yesterday, the market's falling off a lot more than I anticipated. I didn't think they were going to go through the 60-90 area, but they did. They fell all the way to 60-60, give or take. And they pretty much stayed there through the overnight, opening with a very, very slight gap to the upside. And I think that's just about to fill on this little bit of a retest. So we'll see which way the market may be leaning today. A quick overview for those of you new in the trading room. I've got my Hawk scalper here in the top left, Falcon Swing Trader, top right, Eagle Trend Trader, bottom left, and the Raptor on the bottom right. The markets I'm watching on this monitor are the NASDAQ, that's the NQ. I'm also watching the Eurodollar and gold on my other monitor. But please don't be shy about asking for a market that you are following or something you would like to see. So longer term, I think or intermediate term, I should say, I guess we're dealing with a little bit of a downtrend. Short term, well, short term, who knows? But very long term, like on the daily level, the market's still very much in an uptrend. We're only a couple minutes into the session, and we're producing a crossover buy signal here on the Raptor. That's essentially our trend change signal. It happens when the clouds cross from bearish to bullish. There's a little bit of a pullback into the cloud, and then the market tries to recover the new trend, at which time we will get the signal prompt. No follow through on that yet. Anthony is fairly bearish this morning on the NASDAQ. He says he's got a target of 60-60, so that would retest yesterday's lows. I think that's certainly possible. I'm going to give the market a little bit more time here to settle in. Like I said, right now they're looking well, they're trying to get a little bit bullish here on the Raptor anyway. Okay, the Hawk already moderately bearish. Oh, we're getting a trend change signal here in the Falcon. What time is it? Oh, we're 5 minutes into the session exactly. Still a little early, but we'll see how things shape up here. Oh, there we go. All right, so now we're getting a counter trend signal as well. That coincides with our trend change signal here on the Falcon. Because everything is kind of lost, it's sort of constipated really. It's not a bad idea to use a second push on your entries. The second push simply means when the signal prints, we allow the signal to engage and then react so that we can see where the current limits of the trade are. So here on the number 1 signal, you would have entered above that high. The number 2 signal, you would enter below this low. Now, I always say whoever controls the last swing controls the market. So right now, the last swing still belongs to the sellers. We are just above the median line. That may offer some resistance. Well, what do you know? They didn't even slip me on that, I don't think. No, they didn't. Wow. Oh, come on, get the break even. Just sitting above my profit target now. There's actually a little bit of a downtrend building here, or, oops, sorry, it was trying. I was looking here at the Geiger counter. You see we had all this selling go through. The Geiger counter kept, there we go, pulling and sticking to the short side. I don't know, maybe Anthony's right. Maybe we will get a little bit of a deeper retest. Well done, Mark. Mark says grab 300 bucks on that late filter entry on the Eagle. You guys early out of the gate like that always gives me sweaty palms to trade that early. Oh, good. All right. We got a nice little hit on that. So let's take a look here. The late filter entry. Oh, yes, right there. Well done, Mark. So the late filter entry signal, this is one of your high probability signals on the Falcon, occurs when your trend line, or pardon me, your filter goes out of sync and comes back into sync. That's very important, it has to come back into sync. Your trend line never changes color, and you print a signal. Very high probability signal. So you can see, oh, it occurred here to the short side. You got another one here to the long side. Notice your filter goes out of sync, comes back into sync. Trend line never changes color. And you got some decent follow through on that trade. As with all signals, you don't want to get, you know, late filter entry after late filter entry after late filter entry. Here's actually a pretty good example, speaking of which. So the first trend change signal, which is also a high probability signal on the Falcon, happened to be a late filter entry. Note it was just a little bit out of sync. The next one, a little bit more out of sync, followed by yet another one. These two, because we're pretty much at the same price level, I would I would say they coincided, and I would treat them as the same signal. The third one formed down here, and we actually got a little bit more follow-through than I would have anticipated. A lot of times, by the time you get the third late filter entry signal, the market is starting to get pretty tired, and you may not get enough follow-through to get to your high probability target. So that's one thing to bear in mind. If you're in a prolonged trend, the first two signals, as far as late filter entries go, are probably going to be okay. But as you get to a third one, or maybe even a fourth one, if it's a really drawn out trend, you should either adjust your profit objective and just get in, get out right away, or be a little bit more aggressive with your stops, because there may not be enough follow through on that trade. Same is true if you're trading the hawk and we're looking at macro pullback signals. Here's that same move now on the hawk. Okay, well, a lot of these macro pullback signals got spoiled by yellow bars. However, the same thing happens where you don't want to see 3 or 4 or 5 macro pullback signals. That's too much. So you should be a little wary, even in a very strong trend, if you're starting to produce too many signals. You see what the macro pullback and the late filter entry both show you is a shift in trend, a shift in momentum, at least temporarily. And then the buyers are trying to push the market up, and then the sellers take over. Don't really have anything like that to worry about on the Raptor, other than how we've seen through a lot of the sideways trading, where we get periods like this, where we're producing signals and there's very little follow-through, or sporadic follow-through. I shouldn't say little follow-through, because some of these signals did work out. But you're getting signal and then counter trend and signal and counter trend, signal and counter trend, and the market's just not going anywhere. That's why I say you got to take these things in context. You got to look at them at the bigger picture. All right, well, what do you know? This is almost like a normal day. Nicely done. So the market falling off to the primary support zone, 60.59 3/4. I would essentially call that 60.60. Anthony banking his $100 million again. Nicely done. Getting a little bit of buying coming back now. Anthony says the Raptor is off the chain. I might be a little bit too old to know whether that's good or bad. All right, we're getting a nice trend change signal now. You need to be cautious anytime you take a counter trend signal. The nice thing about a counter trend signal is it's a trade-off in probabilities versus risk, essentially. what I mean by that is it's a lower probability trade, especially in the face of what may be a downtrend, but the risk amount is smaller. And you definitely know where to cover the trade, right? There's no second guessing where I'm wrong about this trade. I'm wrong about this trade if it trades back through the lows, because then there is no counter trend. Target for the number 2 signal is the hard edge of the trading band. I find the more reliable number 2 signals tend to develop after a number 3 signal prints. The number 3 signal being the hard edge bounce. This would be close enough to qualify, at least for counter trend purposes. So if the market tries to come down here a little bit, produces, say, a sell signal, and then turns higher, produces another number 2 signal, or at least gives us the formation that we can visually see it as a number 2 signal, that would be an easier one to buy. Yeah, now they're going to make a liar out of me and just go up there anyway. Yeah, and that's, Mark says, where else can you make $600 in 15 minutes and have the rest of the day to go golfing? Too bad it's raining. It's true that, of course, is the appeal of trading. It's a very paradoxical business. If you do it right, it's actually kind of mundane. Because you tend to spend a lot of time waiting, picking your battles, if you will. It does tend to attract those of a gambling mindset because they think you're going to have a lot of action, based on like these movies, how movies portray day traders, Wolf of Wall Street and all that. Well, Anthony thinks we're going to have one more push to the downside. He's looking at 60.50 as a target. Yeah, that would be just above our secondary support zone. Oh, here's that number 3 signal. So now that signal, of course, with trend signals always tend to be higher probability. You do have a chance at a second push entry on this one as well. Once again, the second push simply means that we allow the signal to print, see where it reacts, and then use that level to enter. So what you're looking for now is you're looking for renewed momentum to bring you in the trade. Can I cover it there above the median line? No, I can't. Snickers. All right, so here now that number 2 signal that I was telling you about. Let's see if we get a second push on that one. This is the one that follows the number 3 signal. Okay, so you see how the market's reacting a little bit lower now? Of course, we're back now into the hard edge, And this is totally counter trend. And counter trend trades, as I mentioned before, are higher risk. You shouldn't get in the habit of looking just at counter trend trades, and I think that one slipped me a tick too, did it? You stinkers. Give me my tick back. The hard edge, the initial target. I'm trying to stretch it out a little bit, but there is a scalper's profit there for you. Yeah, like Steven says in relation to my Wolf of Wall Street comment, you mean it's not true that we sleep with whores and go around on cocaine-filled binges? Yeah, I know. It's funny how Hollywood likes to portray day traders. They're usually either really slimy scumbags or they're like the Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah, buy artwork and throw money around, and then we love our wives. Yeah. Okay, so we're in a little bit maybe of a transition here. Counter trend trades, you know, it takes a while for bottoms to form. It's a delicate balance trying to manage your stops and time your trade correctly. And so far, things still slightly bullish. Not happy about this selling spike that came through here, but let's see whether the buyers can absorb it. Almost forgot to journal my trade here. So here come the sellers again. And they're now the second number 3 signal. Essentially making this a double pullback. Double pullback does tend to be a pretty reliable signal for the for shorting. A second push entry here would be advisable as well. The NASDAQ at least moving a little bit. Everything else is just stuck. I read somewhere once someone said that you should never start taking counter trend trades until you've taken all with trend trades, and I think that's probably pretty good advice. If you can't take trends that are with trend or trades that are with trend, then you should certainly avoid your counter trend trades. All right, we're getting a strong bearish push here. I'm probably going to get tagged on this trade. Dan is asking, good morning, Eric. Well, good morning, Dan. Could you please explain how the break-even works? Now, I'm assuming you're talking about the auto break-even. I'll show you how to set that up first of all. So with the auto break-even, what you're going to do is right-click on your chart, go here to your strategies, because Trade Manager, of course, is a strategy. If your Trade Manager is already active, you're going to need to turn it off before you can do any changes. So you go here to your Enabled tab, that's your on-off button, go to Defaults, and click Apply. That's going to make your Trade Manager disappear. From here, roll up to the very top, and you will see the second category has to do with your auto break-even parameters. First thing you need to do is you need to turn it on. So your enable auto break-even, you need to set to true. And next you're going to select your break-even trigger. Now, I find, well, my logic is that if the market gets 3/4 to my profit objective and then fails, well, it's probably a good time to take a break-even stop out. So to that end, I figure anywhere from 75 to 80% of my profit target. I will auto have the trade roll to break even. Here with the Falcon, my high probability target is 20 ticks. So what I'm looking for in this case, about 75% of 20 ticks would be 15 ticks, which also happens to be the default, so that's what I set it at. Your break-even offset in ticks. This is how many ticks of open profit you want to keep once you hit the break-even. So you can set it at, by default it's set at 1 tick, which is going to be essentially enough to pay your commission. But you can set it at more. I've seen some people want to protect like 5 ticks in open profit. What a lot of people don't know is you can actually make this a negative number. So let's say you want to go break even minus 2 ticks. So when you hit the break even trigger, rather than be right at break even, you're still a couple of ticks back. But for the most part, break even plus 1 works pretty well. As I've suggested before, when you have your settings customized the way you like them. If you go here to Template Manager and you click here on Save, and you just give it a name, type in anything, and hit Enter, it will save your template. So you can see I've saved mine already as Falcon. This way, when you go to load a new chart, you don't have to go through all this again. You can just go here and you can load your template. When all your changes are done and everything is saved, go back to your Enable tab, turn it back on, go to True, remember to apply it, and now you will have an auto break-even in play. And lo and behold, the market actually rallied up and hit my profit objective. Wahoo! It was a little dicey there for a moment, but it's looking like we're getting a little bit of a bottom forming. Yeah, absolutely. Dan asks, thanks for the exclamation. Could you also list the profit targets per numbered trade signal for the Raptor? Sure. I'll do it for all of them for the benefit of the people that have the whole package as well. We do profit objectives based on the tool itself. The Hawk Scalper has a $50 per contract objective. So if you're trading a $5 instrument like the NASDAQ, a $50 target would be 10 ticks. If you're trading a $10 instrument like the Russell, a $50 target would be 5 ticks. Now that said, the Russell does tend to move a little bit further, so you may choose to double the profit objective. But the high probability target for the scalper, $50. High probability targets for the Falcon and the Raptor, $100. High probability target for the Eagle is $200. The reason we call them high probability targets is that very often the market will give us a reaction after hitting the profit objective. So let's say we took this trend change signal here in the Eagle down here. Let's say we covered it here. The market comes down, hits the high probability target, and that doesn't mean we're going to see a full-blown reversal, but notice we got a little bit of a reactionary period. So this is why we refer to them as high probability targets. There's a good chance you will get to that profit target before we see some sort of reaction. So the number 1 signal, the number 2 signal, the number 3 signal on the Raptor all have that $100 objective. So the signal printed right here, I know it's hard to see, we got a lot of lines intersecting, but that's where the signal printed. Market comes down, fudges it a little bit, but notice we got a reaction around our high probability zone. The number 2 signal that printed, if we take the first one or the first or second one, the market comes up and now it's giving us a little bit of a reaction once again. The number 3 signal, the market may still come down here and tag the number 3 signal. The thing with the number 3 signal is the stop placement, right? If we go 2 swings back, well, I guess you could count that as swing 1. Swing 2 up here somewhere, say above the high of the day. It's not to say this trade isn't valid yet, but you can see we need to run a rather large stop to make that trade work out. And right now it does look as though we have a little bit of a bullish push. With the number 2 signal, however, while we're on the subject, the profit objective, when the band gets very extended, as it did in this case, so we've got a rather broad trading band. You can see we start printing a bunch of number 2 signals. The signal after the number 3 signal tends to be the most reliable. Now that's a rule of thumb. These things are not carved into stone. There is a slight degree of finesse. Slight. It's not a lot of finesse. But sometimes you need to take these things into consideration. So the target for this number 2 signal that prints would be the hard edge of the trading band. So even though my high probability signal is right here, I might extend it a little bit to try to get up there, maybe grab a couple extra ticks and see if it can't get to the hard edge. You can always use the support and resistance zones as profit targets as well. If you click on tick targets enabled, you can manually select a profit objective. So once again, let's say we're looking at this signal, we're going to cover the trade down here, and let's say we wanted the full zone as a profit target. Or if we have the ability to run more than one contract, let's say we're going to take one profit. Oop, didn't allow me to do that. So we're going to take one profit here, and let's say we want the second zone as our second profit objective. That's fine too. So in this case, there we go, we hit profit target number 1, and now we're looking for profit target number 2. Here we go, and we're almost there. Oop, we're almost there. All right, so that's another way you can do it. You can use the support and resistance lines as profit objectives. Oh, Mark, crushing it today. Give this man a little bit of volatility and he's off to the races. Mark says took another late filter entry signal. Which one is that? Probably this one right here. Same time we were looking at that Raptor counter trend. Yeah, late filter entry to the upside for another 200. I took a lot of heat on that one, and so I'm done. 3 for 3 and $800 on the day. Nicely done, Mark. That deserves a round of applause. Well done. It does seem that the markets have kind of blown things out early, at least the last little while. And believe me, it's a lot easier to go 2 for 2 or 3 for 3 on a day than to try to pick 10 winning trades, or even to pick 7 out of 10 winning trades. I mentioned a fellow by the name of Judah Toussaint the other day. I don't know why more people don't know about this fellow. He's the only trader that I know of who never had a losing trade. Never, ever, ever. I suppose nobody knows about him because he never divulged his trading secrets to anyone. And he was trading when the stock market was still in its infancy. And I think he actually only traded cotton, which I would not recommend to anybody. I've traded cotton. My claim to fame is way back in the 1990s. Way back in the 1900s. That seems so strange to say 1990s now. It seems strange when at the turn of the century to say 2000, but now it's odd to say 1990s. My claim to fame was I sold the high in the cotton market on April 1st, of April Fool's Day. Somehow that seemed kind of poetic. Of course, the market plummeted after I bought it. Oh, sorry, I didn't sell the high. I bought the high on April Fool's Day. Ben asks, my screen is a little compressed. How can I widen it some to match yours a little more? Now, I'm assuming you're talking about the GoToWebinar window, in which case there's going to have to be an expansion tab there somewhere, just like we have on our regular windows. Unfortunately, I don't even know if you guys can see this. If I pull this over, I get this tiny little image of what you see, so I don't really know what you're working with on your end. Oh, Ben says, no, my Ninja 7. All I do is I just resize my charts. So I just grab the corners and I just resize them to fit on my screen. And then if the market presents something interesting, like here we're getting a crossover buy signal, I will just hit the maximize button. Now, I don't know if that's what you're after. If you don't have a lot of screen real estate, you can also hide your trade manager until you need it. Right? That gives you a little bit more screen as well. And then when you get a signal prompt or a warning and the trade looks interesting to you, you can go to your screen, you can maximize it, and you can turn on your trade manager. At least recently, the market hasn't been moving that fast that you can't get back to a chart in time. Ben says I'm a little short on time for setting up. You can you can email me and I'll send you my template. A lot of times when you first open up a chart, like when you first build a chart on Ninja, so let's say we're going to build a new, let's say, oh, I don't know, crude oil chart. And we're going to make it an 8 tick. And we're going to make it a Raptor chart. Okay, it's just building. A lot of times the size that it prints at by default is not a bad size to start. And then from here you just play with it a little bit. I think, I don't know if Windows still has the ability to stack your charts. I know that used to be a feature where if you had 3 or 4 charts on your screen, you had the opportunity to stack them or tile them, and it would automatically reformat your chart to fit your screen. But I've just been doing it manually. It really doesn't take that long. Once you get the first one down, or the first 2 down, you just, drag your next one over top and you make it approximately the same size. Or write me and I'll send you my template. That's still the easiest one. Oh, I'm so sorry. Ben says I've got Windows 10. I do it manually as well. Is Windows 10, is it just me, or is Windows 10 not the worst operating system that Windows has come up with? I hate it. Windows 7, I think they peaked at Windows 7. Yeah, Dan says, no, it's the best ever. I hate it because I'm in the middle of working on something and all of a sudden the screen says, oh, we've got new updates for you. Let us reboot the computer. And then it'll pester you for every hour until you finally reboot. And it's not like it's a 2-minute reboot. You go grab a cup of coffee and come back. It's like a 20-minute reboot and update. It's like, oh. At least in Windows 7, I don't know about Windows 8, but at least in Windows 7, you could still turn off the updates. And why would you do that, you say? Aren't there security threats out there? Well, no. They label everything a security update. It is not. Very often the security update has a little tracking package in it or a little advertising package. That's why those of you on Windows 7 who routinely get the prompt to update to Windows 10, it's because somewhere down the line your computer has updated and loaded that little packet, and now it drives you crazy. Yeah, Ben says it's a pain. Yeah, I know. Dan says you can do it during the night, like at 2 a.m. Dan, you need to show me how you can turn the updates off in Windows 10, because that is the thing that annoyed me most. I almost took my laptop back, or I thought seriously about putting Linux on my laptop when I found that you could no longer turn the updates off on your Windows 10 machine. They force the updates on you, and I don't think that's right. You pay a lot of money for a computer. It's supposed to be your computer, not Microsoft's computer. If they want to give me a computer, they can do all the updates they want. They can track me all they want. But if I'm paying for it, no. It's going to do what I want it to do. Ah. Oh, I hit a bit of a nerve here. I'm getting a lot of comments about Windows 10. Most of them not good. Yeah, see, Ben has the same problems I do. Ben says, thanks, I'll send you an email about other questions too. Sure, no problem, Ben. Um, Ben says, I've had no issues, but the reboot issue is a pain. It resets my video settings. It is a pain. And that's what it does to me too. I opened up my laptop one day and I didn't realize what the update had done. It had reset my video settings, so now my computer was like a tablet, and I couldn't figure out what was going on for a good half hour. It was driving me crazy. Oh, I was so mad. My blood was boiling. Dan says, if you set your Wi-Fi, or as I like to annoy my techie friends and call it Wi-Fi, if you set your Wi-Fi as a metered network, it does not do them anymore. All right. I will definitely check that out. Thank you for the tip, Dan. Yeah, Mark says, I have 10 and I'm not a fan. You have to do a lot of tweaks to get things the way you want them. Yes, I found that too. And it still has a mind of its own after an update. There are ways to delay the updates. Yes, there are, but you can't opt out of them entirely, unfortunately. Adam told me about a program, and I don't have the link to it, but it would be an easy search. There is a program that will make Windows 10 look and perform more like Windows 7. Unfortunately, you still don't have the option to opt out of the updates, but at least it's a little bit more user-friendly. Or I think, anyways. You know, if I were 20 years old and I grew up with Windows 8, I wouldn't know any better. But unfortunately, I'm not anymore. Sorry about the little rant, but there's nothing going on here in the marketplace at the moment. So, our little detour. I considered this #1 cloud crossover signal, but I was wondering whether the market was getting a little tired. Paul, you may be my new best friend. Paul writes, turn off Windows updates in Windows 10. You can do this using the Windows Update service via the Control Panel administrative tools. You can access services. In the Services window, scroll down to Windows Update, turn off the processes. July 4th, 2015. That must be off the Windows website, maybe. That is, I've just reposted that to everybody for if you're struggling like me. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. Scott says I've got Windows 10 and I'm lost in it. You know, the and I suppose it's par for the course because so many programmers are in their 20s and 30s that they don't think anything of making these changes. I look at my grandson um, with his electronics. He picks them up, he plays with them, and he figures them out in no time. But he has nothing else to do with his day. Once his homework is done, he has no other responsibilities. So he can devote an hour or two and amuse himself and figure out how a new program works. Me, on the other hand, I've got better things to do than to relearn my Gmail or relearn how my operating system works. And I think they tend to forget these things. They want to make things flashier and more exciting, and no, I don't need flash. I don't need excitement. I need this thing to do what I want it to do, and that's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Oh dear, I'm starting to sound like an old fart. I used to laugh at my dad for not being able to program the clock on the VCR. I'm not laughing anymore. For those of you who don't know what a VCR is, don't even post. I don't want to hear it. All right. Well, we're kind of in a bit of a sideways drift. I think this number one signal may actually may slip high enough to hit its profit objective. Oops. Let's go back to the high probability targets. So I could see it trickling up here to 60.80. I'm not sure it's going to get a whole lot further than that. Visually, we've lost a lot of momentum. Pardon me. That is the one chief advantage of day trading is you can see momentum. If you're looking at an end of day chart, it's almost impossible to see momentum because, of course, it's static. Here's an end of day chart. You have no idea how quickly the bars are unfolding, what kind of momentum is behind them. You can surmise, of course. You can look at the big picture and you can say, oh, well, there's a lot of bullish bars here. There must be some bullish momentum. And that's a fair assessment. Big bear bar the other day. And you can see we're down here at obvious support around the 60-50 area. We are starting to get a little bit top heavy, I think. Now, mind you, I've been calling for a reversal since August, a correction. I thought for sure we'd see a bigger correction in October, and while October is not over yet, Every time you think the stock market's going to head lower, it heads higher. So you don't want to get too crazy on the short side. But a lot of momentum does seem to have drained out of the market, and there's just not a whole lot of participation here at the moment. Ben says, I've got an old Sony VCR that does not have a Y2K chipset in it. It duds out at 1999. Wow, I still got some cassettes that, hey, we could watch. My wife keeps wanting me to get rid of the old VHS cassettes, but I've got the combo machine, the VHS and the DVD player all in one. My friend, of course, had the Betamax because everybody knows Beta was superior to VHS. And look where Beta is now, right? Oh, wow. Steven says a few years ago I was helping my brother clean out his storage locker, and he has an unopened box and a brand new Betamax. That thing could actually be worth some money. If you put that up on eBay, I wouldn't be surprised if you got a pretty penny for that. People who collect those things, they would be all over that. Mark says, I used to have 8 tracks and an Atari. We're probably about the same age. Yeah, it sounds like it. I remember being 16 years old. I grew up in Alberta, so you could get your driver's license at 16. It's in the middle of the prairies. There's nothing to hit. It's like growing up in Iowa. But we cruised around in my friend's mother's Cordova with an 8-track player, and we thought we were so cool. She only had Kenny Rogers and Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. Oh, I think there was Air Supply in there as well. So we spent a lot of time listening to Herb Alpert. Occasionally we throw Kenny in there. Anthony's still looking for a sell-off. You might be right, Anthony. I think we could see a sell. Maybe, like I say, once we get up around the 60-80 area, we're nursing this very, very slight uptrend. Back near the highs of the day, maybe the market will get knocked back down again. The volume definitely draining out of the market. There's one of the radio DJs in Vancouver, and during the lunch hour he'll do 80s flashback, and he'll actually play 8-track on the air, and the sound quality is pretty darn good on an 8-track. The reason they're not around anymore, well, besides you can't download them is they're the size of a pocketbook. Mark says there's a lot of divergence forming at the current level, so I'm taking that you're probably suggesting bearish divergence, seeing how the market's a little bit more bullish. We're pretty much lost. We're pretty much sideways here. Again, if you're looking at the overall context, we got a little bit of a broader trading range going on here this morning. Back near the highs of the day. And there they go. They're going to try to sneak up there toward the 60-80 area. Oh, Ben, I almost forgot about the reel-to-reel. He says the 8-track was the big improvement over the reel-to-reel. Yes, I do remember those too. Tape recorders were a big deal when they came out because everybody, of course, had record players. Come on, get up there. Mark says there's 8-track players for sale on eBay. I'm not surprised. All right, the slow grind up to 60-80, almost there. Oh, yes, of course. Ben's asking, my window does not show the highs and lows of the day. How do you fix that? I should point out that that is actually an add-on indicator. Those are the initial balance lines from Indicator Warehouse. And what I've done is I've set the opening range. Now you need to obviously set your local start time and then the length of opening range. I consider to be the first 30 minutes. And then it will display the highs and lows of the first half hour of trading. The other lines, the other horizontal lines, are the ultimate support and resistance suite. But the dotted green lines, those are the initial balance lines from Indicator Warehouse. Scott, great question. And Scott's asking, Eric, do you have any input on the issues we might see if on NinjaTrader 8? I believe that everything is working except there is still the occasional bug in Trade Manager. And I spoke to Adam about it yesterday, and he says the issue is supposed to be resolved by the end of the month. That's what the programmer told him. But Adam said realistically he would be happy if it's resolved by the end of the year. So the Trade Manager with Ninja 8, there may be a conflict. The Ninja 8 itself offers no benefit to the DTS or the Raptor. Most of the Ninja 8 improvements have been cosmetic, and they've allowed Ninja to offer up a couple other things on their platform. So in other words, if you're running like a 5-minute chart or a daily chart or an hourly chart, whatever, you can play with your indicators, you can dress them up. Like I say, most of the changes have been cosmetic. However, because they've made some of those changes, there are some conflicts with the trade manager. I am always reluctant to upgrade to another trading system. I think I was probably the last person to upgrade from Ninja 6.5 to Ninja 7. And I had to because well, I forget why, but I never upgrade early. I'm never one of these beta testers unless Adam wants me to break a new piece of software. I always go with the most stable version. Because hey, if I got money on the line, I don't need the headaches. Scott asked, do you know what the bug does? No, I don't. Yeah, no problem. Ben says, can you please tell me what those lines were again? I will do one better. I will show you where they're at. They are the initial balance lines. Now they're really kind of cool, actually. They'll plot a bunch of stuff for you. They'll plot pivots and they'll plot well, whatever. The moon phase indicator is also a pretty cool indicator. And you know what? I'm not just saying that tongue in cheek. There's actually a lot of people that, or if you look at the market, here, why not? Why not? We're taking a bit of a detour here this morning anyhow. Let's build that daily chart again. So we'll take a look. Where are you, NASDAQ? There you are. Okay, so here now is the NASDAQ on the daily. Okay, so where's my new moon? So we had a new moon on the 19th and a full moon on the 5th. So, let's see here. October 5. October 5, we have a full moon, and on the 19th we have a new moon. And what about before that? One second here. The Indicator Warehouse tool, of course, does this for you automatically. And so full moon, October 5th, September 6th, we had a full moon. September 6th. Don't worry, I have a point here. I'm not just getting derailed again. October 12. No, sorry, that's the third quarter. New moon. September 19. And we'll just do one more. August 7 was a full moon. And August 21 was a new. Okay, notice anything? Notice how the market tends to top out on or near a full moon and how it tends to rally on or near a new moon? Is that weird or what? Now, of course, it's not exact. Here it fudged it almost by a full 2 weeks. There's no topping out here, but this one, not that far off. This one almost bang on, where the market tops out and then it finds a bottom again off a new moon. Crazy, huh? So that's why Indicator Warehouse offers a moon cycle indicator. Maybe something to keep in mind. We've got a new moon forming, or just had a new moon on the 19th, a couple days ago. Maybe the market will try to rally from here. Maybe we need to be a little bit more bullish again. I need that creepy sci-fi music going on in the background when I talk like that. Scott asked, do you know what the bug does on Ninja 8? No, I don't. But if you email Adam, he will certainly tell you. If you haven't come across the bug yet, it's probably a non-issue for you. I don't think it conflicts with everyone's computer. But I have heard of that there is a little glitch in there somewhere. Scott says, I was told by Ninja 8 allows the CPU to use all processors, like I have 8, and Ninja 7 only uses one processor. Well, that could be. Yeah, Scott says if the bug makes good trades, that would be okay. Yeah, I think it's usually these kinds of bugs are simple, like you go to set your prices and it doesn't display properly, or doesn't display at all, or one of your stop strategies isn't displaying, or something like that. That's usually the extent of it. It's not that your system grinds to a halt kind of thing. It's usually a little glitch in there that's more annoying than anything. Scott asked, if you go to Ninja 8, can you go back to Ninja 7 if the bug is too much? Yes. I do believe Ninja 7 is still available on the NinjaTrader website. You may have to dig for it a little bit. Or, let me just double check my computer. I never clear my downloads. I probably still have a Ninja 7 executing file. In which case, I could send it to you. Let me just double check. Oh dear, I never do clean these things out. Yep, NinjaTrader install. There it is. There's Ninja 7. Oh, Dan! Dan knows it all. He says when you download the demo, it's Ninja 7. But if anybody gets jammed up, I still have the NinjaTrader installer for Ninja 7. Yeah, it's not Ninja 6.5. I just double checked. It is Ninja 7. Oh, there you go. Dan says Ninja 8 is an upgrade option. Dan says, I know because I'm a noob just starting out. Well, that's good. I didn't know that. I'm glad you passed that along. All right, so we challenged the highs of the morning. That number one signal on the slow grind to the upside did find its high probability target. Significant resistance off of the high of the morning, however. I might try a number three signal if the market retreats back here to the hard edge and comes out with a possible buy. That might be worth attempting. But like I said, we're kind of on the slow sideways grind right now. But we've had a couple of decent trades, so it's not a loss this morning. And once you can get yourself in the position where you can trade multiple contracts, as I've said before, it's not about trading more often, but rather capitalizing on those high probability opportunities. That's how you make more money. Or the easiest way to make more money, I should say. Possible late filter entry signal here on the Falcon. We are producing warning dots. The trend line still green. The filter out of sync hasn't come back into sync yet. We do need to see the market close at 60.81 in order for that filter to turn green again. I don't know, Mark was talking about divergence earlier. If the bearish divergence still holds, we may actually see a little bit of a reverse off of the morning high. Well, whatever momentum we had seems to be gone, and it's probably because we're awfully close to the lunch hour break as well. Wow, they are just dead. All right, gang, I think we're going to call it a day. I was hoping we would get one more signal here, either a buy signal or a sell. I think what you need to be on the lookout for if you're going to continue trading this afternoon, the market's going to tip its hand. It's either going to give us a test of the extreme, in this case the extreme being the high, essentially a double top is what we're looking for. If we get the double top and a sell signal, that would be a worthwhile attempt to short. Otherwise, it's going to make us an intermediate little double bottom down here. That's what I was looking for, a possible hard edge bounce. I was thinking, okay, if the market comes down, it could encounter the hard edge and bounce up, possibly give us a buy signal and a number 3. That would be a buying opportunity. Or if the market continues up and reacts near the high, that could be a selling opportunity. So we're in a little bit of a bind here. The market getting a little restricted as to where it's going to go, but it hasn't signaled yet really whether it wants to go higher or lower. So that's what I would be on the lookout for. But these bars have really slowed. We saw some decent momentum earlier, but look at this current bar. It's okay. Well, that one's not that old, but the one before it took like 5 minutes to form. The one before that took about 10 minutes to form. All right, so there's the uptick. Let's see if they get knocked down now. Come on. This is a pretty aggressive counter trend as well because the band is not very broad just yet. So we'll see how it plays out. It may only be worth a scalp. As I said, I wouldn't get too aggressive on the long side or the short side for that matter. Geiger counter pulling hard here to the short side. Sticking for the most part. No? All right. Well, that's what I would be on the lookout for. All right, boys and girls, we'll see you again tomorrow. We'll do it all over again. Talk to you then. Bye for now.